Now, to be totally honest, I've been a little bit demotivated to come to this ornamental side. I've given you plenty of updates on the actual vegetable garden side of it. Yeah, Papa. Aren't you beautiful? You came for a walkabout. Because obviously the new cottage garden area, I knew that I can't really do anything there until I have enough of wood chip so that I can cover the footpaths, sort of areas that I was planning on either side of the hedges. But here, during the heat wave that we had in May, everything was fabulous because obviously everything was blooming and it was a pleasant area to walk around in, and it was warm, and obviously there was plenty of fresh foliage. But then month of June being wet, month of July being terribly wet and cool as well, there's so much black spot. Then the foxgloves that had self-seeded themselves around here, they've all gone brown and set seed. So they're not a pleasing plant to look at. And one of the biggest goals I have across the whole garden area is reducing the workload going forward, reducing maintenance, not the seed sowing and planting. That's a positive activity, but these kind of mundane tasks like weeding, watering, I want to reduce that. I want to be more efficient and not waste my time doing it. But obviously with the roses, you need to deadhead, you need to feed them. That is sort of part of it. But obviously then you'd have, I suppose, disease management. So if you have the black spot and the foliage is all going brown, that's not pleasant. That needs to be dealt with. But yeah, across the board, I'm sure this is the same for everybody, that you want to surround yourself with positive and nice surroundings. So once this area here started to go down, and I knew how much work I had to do to get it up to some kind of level of niceness again, I really started procrastinate then, and I just putting it off and putting it off. But now we're early August and it really hit me. And it actually got me a bit down as well once it sort of hit me mentally that it's August, which means that all those great plans I had in spring, I hadn't finished them. I hadn't even started most of them. And so basically I got nothing done. And obviously with the month of August, then I'm actually leaving for a week to visit my family, my parents, and so looking forward to that. But also at the very end of August, the schools are back, so we have to prepare for schools, and we don't have everything gotten. I think even some of the uniform we don't have yet. So it feels like I really have no time left. And once then the school starts, the schedule is totally different. You'd have again the football trainings and soccer trainings, and there is so much more than happening, as the summer was a bit more relaxed at its pace. So I think it's about time that I'll tackle this job. I'll show you how it looks like now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No. No. How it looks like now, and then what I have to do to it. I'm going to leave it, I suppose at the very end, I'm going to leave it quite bare, and because I need new plants. I need to clear it, clean it, get the weeds out. I'm going to take out all the foxgloves, even the ones that still have blossoms on them, and the bumblebees are feeding off them still, but there are plenty of other food sources around, so I don't worry about bumblebees being hungry. No, I don't worry about that at all. And then I'm going to just leave the planters sort of empty because I need new planting sort of schemes put in place, and figure out what I actually need to get in them. But that's a job for another day. So once the flower stalks of the foxgloves go over, they just look something that you'd be happy to look at in maybe end of October or in November, but otherwise there's nothing summery about it. And then I have a lot of weeds. We decided this dandelion, these weeds here at least 2 foot apart, they're my nemesis for summer. Loads of cuttings from the hedges and leaves that obviously wind has blown into the planter here. Foxglove has totally gone over. All dead foliage, the branches. You can't actually tell a difference between where the rose is because the rose branches are so bare as well. There's no flowers on them except for this one, and again black spot everywhere. But what I find that helped me a lot to get out of this funk I was in about just getting out here and getting the jobs done was once the branches of those lime tree or the linden got shredded, and I got the wheat barrier down, I got the wood chip spread out onto it, that helped enormous amount, because obviously the heap of the branches, the grass started to grow through them, and it started to look messier in another area as well. So to get one job done, you had to have another job done, and there was another job that had to be done beforehand. So it was just getting that ball rolling, really, what was all about, but mine was just holding it back. So luckily my husband helped me to shred. Well, he actually did most of the shredding now this year. Helped to shred the branches, and once that got tidied up, obviously a lot of physical work involved with holding the trailer back and forth between the hedging here. But yeah, once that got done, it gave a good positive mental boost, and that's how I started to think, okay, look, this is another job that I just kept putting off. I have to just have to come out here and do it. And I know that once I get this job done as well, I will feel as good about the overall garden as I did once that small job was done. And it's just one of those things that you need to give yourself these little treats that once you get that positive outcome out of a completed job, whatever the job is, but take it and get that off your list, and it will help you, and it will help you to keep going forward, because there are always going to be jobs. They are never ending. But this is a good few hours later, but how much better does this space look now? Obviously, as I said, the planters are empty because I do need to increase the plants with more of a foliage, because I did really like it the way at the very beginning I would have had the Nepeta, the Six Hills Giant inside here, but because it was just so happy with its conditions, it really took over. It went in between the actual roses as well, so I could see that it was taking too much energy away from the roses. So if it would be maybe a different type of Nepeta to introduce back here again. But overall, this space now is much more positive. You're not staring at the weeds, and also those spent flower heads. They're just not something you'd want to be looking at. My helpers are back here again. They never knew about this space, but because they're so young and small or slender still, they can actually just walk through the fencing, the sheep wire fencing, which the older girls can't. And yeah, they're very active. You nearly blend into the soil there, Rosie. Look at you. Yeah, you're finding something? Good girl. And Blossom is on the other side. But I've got this white gladiola here, which I'm going to keep. It so far is looking good. The peonies, the Sarah Bernhardt peonies, those are good, and I like that kind of big chunky foliage. The new roses that I planted. This here is Silas Marner. They're beautiful and lovely fragrance as well. And look at the foliage. This kind of a reddish tones with acidic green when they're young, and then they go into deep green. As this one is Gabriel Oak, and I'll show you the blossom on another plant of that look. And the bee is showcasing this Princess Alexandra of Kent, another beautiful fragrance. But these are some of the, no, they're actually the very original flowers. I still see a couple of spent flower heads I didn't spot. And every year I'm looking at them, will I take them out, will I not? And I give them another year and another year, and I think I'm trying to still nurture them. I think I will. But it's quite nice to look at the gladiola spiking through. Obviously in the far distance you have big ornamental lily, and then there's white phlox shining through as well. But yeah, it's nearly impossible now to get the girls out of these planters, because obviously they know where the nicest of soils is, and I've no fencing that stops them. They just need to bulk up a bit more so they won't be able to squeeze themselves through the netting. Isn't that right, Rosie? They're so identical looking. I really have to look at the comb to see which one is which one. Otherwise, there's just no way of telling. But Rosie's much more placid. She's the one on the left at the moment here. Right, but let's come to this side. So this is the new sort of the cottage garden area. And first of all, straight away, obviously the Gabriel Oak. Look at these blooms. They are stunners. Again, beautiful fragrance on them. Lovely foliage, nice colours on that. Loads of fresh foliage, good strong plants. But obviously there was a lot of horse manure and fresh compost that went into this bed. If you hear any kind of a rattle around me, I have both the hens literally next to me here, and also Spuds. Yeah, with his ball. There's that little left of it. He absolutely adored this rugby ball. And the squeak that was in it, that's obviously long gone. But every piece of it. Yeah, I have to see if I can find you a new one, Baba. Yes, girls. Well, just don't pick at my legs. Your peaks are so sharp. But I think it would be lovely to walk through the rose garden. Hi, Rosie. Shh, Rosie. I think it would be really lovely to walk through that classical or this kind of real formal rose garden, where you have those solid, intense constraints of the beds, and then obviously you have that crisp white gravel around it, and then you come into this very much going to be a relaxed, more of a typical cottage garden, or this kind of English cottage garden planting. like the shape of it is still going to be a bit more sort of constrained because I like that. I like to be able to sort of just have my lines in sight where is the plant and where is the weed, and because obviously we're in very much in the wild, it's not an urban setting, and I'm going to have a sort of a good solid circular lawn area in the middle, and then the beds are going to be surrounding it. But at the moment already the plants behind me are nice and strong, and they definitely have benefited so much more from that hedging. The young hedge that I planted was about a year ago now, maybe 2 years ago. I have to look back on my video that I did, because they were hedges that I had planted to the very front of the house first, and then I just literally moved them one of the winters over to here to create like a wind shelter, because the way the cold winds are coming up from the alley. But I used this kind of a solid flat iron bar, and we had one length of it left over from the front of the yard planting area, and I actually thought this would be good as a barrier between where the lawnmower is going to be cutting the grass, because the plastic that's down, that has done a fabulous job at killing all the grass and the weeds underneath of it. I always do depend on that solid sheet mulching. It seems to work the best for us, because it is nice to have this kind of a grass path between from here into the orchard then, and then you have flowers at either side. I still have to put some kind of a planting on the opposite side of the cottage garden as well. Hi Rosie, how's my girl? How's my girl? Are you Rosie? You are Rosie, aren't you? Show me your head. Hi, Papa. Hi, Papa. Yeah, you are Rosie. You indeed are my Papa. You are the sweetheart. Just a sweetheart. But yeah, seeing that kind of a project now starting to come together a little bit more, because getting that chippings and that wheat barrier down, which I don't like to use in the garden, but I had originally, when we had bought the roll, and some of it was used around the greenhouse area where under the stones, and in the kitchen garden as well, under the stones, not under the wood chip. I don't like to use it, but because there was the leftover roll already, and I knew that's the only way of stopping the actual grass growing through, or the weeds coming in again, was to have a solid barrier. And the only way to keep it clean is to mulch it heavily, and I have mulched it really thickly, because obviously as the mulch is going to settle, it is going to be decomposing itself then, and so it's going to get flatter and it's going to get compacted more. So even now yearly I can keep up topping it up basically with new wood chip. But so far it's looking good. It is a good area. I can see now this, obviously this part I just didn't have enough of the plastic sheet to go on this, but otherwise this is all going to be planting then as well. But yeah, so this is the update from the ornamental side, but it's time to harvest another pot of the Charlotte potatoes and show you some tomatoes as well. So obviously, first of all, the tomatoes, there's loads of them. There's plenty still growing, but the main issue I have here is that the blight really has come in. I've removed loads of foliage. I've taken out as much as possible, probably even less than a week ago, but I can see there's still some coming out, and I just nip them out now straight away, and I'll show you these. And I'm going to bin them. I'm not going to be putting them into compost. They're literally going to go into the bin. But this side was the worst affected, and if you saw my update on where I was taming the jungle in here, this had a lot of areas that the plants had collapsed on top of each other, and that's horrible to look at. And I'll show you how it affects the fruit as well. Yeah, I hope the camera is able to pick up how brown it is in the middle here. It's this kind of squishy looking. I think I had blighted leaves on all of the tomatoes now. This is not something you want to see in your tomato plants. These concentric rings and yeah, this fluffy surface, because this is just going to be spreading. Really trying to keep on top of the blight now is going to become a daily routine. And even when I was cutting out all that diseased foliage, I didn't record it. I'm quite sure I didn't. Maybe I took a clip how it was before, and then when I had cleaned it out, maybe I did only do that. But otherwise, I bagged everything, and I was using, even the secateurs I was using to nip the branches off, I was cleaning them between every plant or between even different areas with antibacterial wipes, because I just did not want to spread it if I could at all contain it as much as possible. And then also I have been keeping the greenhouse doors closed, only having one or two of the one end doors open rather than having the draft going through the place, because the weather has been cooler, but just to make sure I contain the heat inside here, just to get the fruit to ripen a bit quicker. And that has helped. It definitely has helped and worked, because I'll show you now how our first tomatoes, and they're the Sweet Million, how they're looking like. So look at these babies, aren't they just stunning? So that's your truss, and it starts to ripen from the closest to the main stem or the body of the plant. You can see slugs have nibbled it a little bit because it's been sitting inside the tagetes. And look at them. Aren't they just gorgeous? And there's so many of them. It is really a pleasure to look how they're ripening on that long truss. But otherwise, it is a crazy mayhem. There's so many branches. I cut out tons of branches of them, and I tried to reduce the amount of growth that was on them, and hopefully by that as well then increase the airflow. So this is going to be the main sort of worry I'll have now once I'm gone, because I won't be able to keep an eye on it. But I just hope my husband will be able to keep picking out those leaves. So aren't they just beautiful? Nice size salad tomatoes. I'm not sure if I said that already, that when I de-leafed them and took out as much as that dead foliage as possible, or the diseased foliage as possible, I also topped them all off and cut out. Oh jeez, look up there. It's so fast it spreads. I'm telling you, you need to be here every day. But at least the tomatoes are bulking out more. It's the money maker at the back there. This is the money maker. Lucky leprechaun, lucky leprechaun. And luckily the fruit itself, it's starting to swell up as well. See, this is the apricot salix. They are big tomatoes, and there's plenty of them, so I really hope they'll start ripening. That's the San Marzano, and there's one at the back there that's starting to take on a bit of colour. Look at this baby here. So yeah, let's hope that we'll get a nice harvest out of the tomatoes before the blight really will take over, because it will. There's no turning back this. Once it has started, I'm afraid you could just try to contain it. And I see another leaf. I literally see another leaf that has it. I have to remove it. I can't leave it there. Hey wasp, will you go away? But finally, time to harvest the pot of potatoes. So time for pot number 5 out of the 10. So this is exactly a halfway mark. So after this one, we're down to another 5, and then once those are gone, obviously the main crop of potatoes. Oh, it looks good. Yeah, it looks good. There's worms in it. I think nearly now, the sign of worms is good. That once there's something in it, oh, I never got myself a bucket or something. No, I'm definitely loving this type of harvesting system because, again, the potatoes are so clean, but it's just... It's just such a handy portion. It's like you don't have to deal with any issues from having a big amount of potatoes to harvest in one go. You just take what you need, and you don't disrupt any of the other plants either. So and again, 2 seed potatoes. Now so far what I've seen is that last year I would have had much smaller seed potatoes, and the harvest then obviously was bigger out of it because the ratio against the seed potato weight against the harvest, one versus the other, was greater. So I suppose these little pots, and again, what are they? That's a 10-litre pot, and there's a good weight in it, so that's not bad. Like, this is perfect. Actually, that's not bad. It is perfect. So number 5, and obviously once I weigh it, I pop it on the screen for you how much it was. And I'll grab myself another swede. We've seen so many of the cabbage white butterflies flying around, and they're definitely laying more eggs on the Brussels sprouts, which is just terrible, obviously, because I'm going to lose harvest from that. They don't have it netted yet. Not yet. I'm not going to be netting it. And this is the condition the Arran Victory potatoes are in. I haven't obviously given you any updates on them for the last 2 weeks then. And this is much more of a healthy dieback now on a plant. And there's still a couple of fresh shoots coming up, but this kind of overall yellowing, slowly sort of going to sleep sort of a look, rather than having these intensely blackening leaves happening. So yeah, so I'll let it settle for a longer, probably end of August, and then I'm cleaning off the tops of them as well and stack it with the rest of them. And speaking of the rest of them, like there's still some new shoots popping up on the 5 and 6 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4 where Desiree went there. So, and then this 5 and 6, what was that? I've forgotten. But yeah, even though I'm not watering it, this is quite dry at the top, but there's actually a little bit of moisture underneath. Yeah, there you go. Just what rain brings in. So yeah, there's a little bit of growth and it's all looking healthy, except on this one. There's a bit of a bleach spot on it.